Hello. Oh yeah. Well, I just turned this on and said, "Oh fuck, that's not good." Is it? Okay, cool. Hello, and welcome to Stealth Society London, April 2025. Gonna hack it. I'm gonna hack it. I got a flip of zero. Housekeeping. Right. Thank you first to our hosts, Adam. There he is. Thank you, Neil4j, Adam. And to our sponsors, Zephyr. Zephyr Cloud. No, it's not. That's not that. Oh, should I go back?
Everyone should have read
Yeah. Have you all read the Code of Conduct? Cool, because if you haven't, then you can't be here. It includes important rules. It's very serious. Okay. Donations are welcome, so feel free to scan that QR code, donate. It helps run the meetup. It helps pay for pizza, not the cheeseburger one. That one they gave us. It pays for like Hawaiian and good stuff. Our sponsor, Neo4j. This is the right order. Our host, Neo4j. Would you like to say a few words?
I'm happy to say a few words.
Yeah, sorry, mid feature. I apologize. You have this one. That one might turn the world off, so just have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is it?
Just speaking to it.
Okay, cool. Who of you have heard of Neo4j before? Nice, I like it. Who of you have used Neo4j before? That is a problem that I need to fix. So it's a good job you're all here today in our office. But yeah, I mean, the reason to use Neo4j is if you have, long database queries with, unwielding lengths, terrible performance. If the connections between data is important as the data itself, then that's when you'd learn Neo4j. I, as a JavaScript engineer for 10, 15 years, take it personally when I see that people don't use Neo4j and they go to other tools. So keep us in mind next time. But yeah, I highly recommend. So my day job is working on Neo4j Graph Academy. If you want to learn anything about graph databases, how they work, how it works with a JavaScript ecosystem with TypeScript, then I recommend heading there. But yeah, otherwise, enjoy the night and I'll see you tomorrow.
I would clap, but I can't clap. Our sponsor, Zephyr Cloud. All right, so toilets and things. That's important. So toilets are down there. You go through that door. She always said right. Through that door. Toilet's kind of like around the corner there. And the fire exit, if there's a fire, there's no drill today, so if there's a fire, it's real. Down there, and I think you go right and straight down. I mean, yeah, it'll work. You'll find out, you've got legs. Right. Battery's low. It's scary. Right. Svelte Summit Conference. Tickets are going to stop being on sale very, very soon. Please, if you want to go, it's going to be in Barcelona. It'll be amazing. There'll be an amazing set of talks. There's everything, workshops, you name it. So please check this out. We had a riot last time, didn't we, Rich? We did. And yeah, come along. What more can I say? Yeah, you're always talking about Bert. I mean, Bert, to be fair, sorry speakers, does the best talks. He definitely does the best talks. Yeah, so check this out, please. Right, CityJS. There's a lot of conferences here, hey. So CityJS is happening today, tomorrow, Friday. There's workshops today. This is a kind of intro warm-up thing. Tomorrow workshops and Friday talks. There are still tickets available, I believe. Hence this slide. Yep. Yeah, you can see the list of speakers. Very exciting lineup there. This is going to be great. And thank you to Aris for also helping us with this, organizing this space. And Aris runs CityJS, so he's a well-connected man. He's a good guy. Okay. Schedule.
That's it.
That's it. All right. This is the first talk, second talk. Right. I flipped too far. I flipped too far. Right. Oh, to go backwards. Okay. I don't know how to go backwards. I've been told to press the middle button. Don't go backwards. All right. Which pin do I wire to which? This is it's illegal. Sorry. Right. Okay. So the first talk is by Oliver Turner. Here he is. And it's just building cross-platform browser extensions with Svelte. I will give you this device.
Thank you so much. Oh, you got one? Oh, I actually got one, yeah. I give it back to you.
Oh, you got one? Yeah, cool. Awesome. Yeah.
There we go.
Mike. I'll put this here in case it...
Hopefully it will just go back to the way it was. Oh, it's going to need me to do that.
Do you have two laptops?
I do.
Okay, that's great.
So why?
That's not FTML.
Oh, sorry. All right. And so now,
Oh, you're on.
great. Okey-dokey. So the setup is just to make my life easier. I get full view of my speak notes, and I talk to that thing via WebSocket, and you'll get to see the uninterrupted view. Okay, so building cross-platform browser extensions with Svelte. So the first question you might ask is, why would I want to build a browser extension? And in my case, the answer is because it lets me give the product managers, commercial and legal stakeholders I work with at the Financial Times. I'm sorry, what?
Share screen.
Um,
No one will think.
so I'm confused.
That be the end and just.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to go on that.
I'm on air.
You're sharing it. Minor technical issue.
That's it. Talking about yourself.
You're fine, fine.
Thanks. Okay, good. Okay, we'll try that again. So the first question you might ask yourself is, why would I want to build a browser extension? And in my case, the answer is because it lets me give the product managers, commercial and legal stakeholders I work with at the Financial Times, insight into how our applications are behaving. We want to make sure that our users' privacy is being respected. By the way, I'm the tech lead of the ads and privacy team, so I do really care about users' privacy. Is being respected, that they're getting served the right ads, that we're displaying them at the correct dimensions and in the agreed locations. This means that I want my non-technical colleagues to be able to query code that's running on the page and inspect the traffic that we're sending to Google's ad servers. To take a concrete example of the kind of thing I'm talking about, let's look at brand safety. One thing we absolutely want to know is that the topic of an article is appropriate for the client's advert to be shown on. The client may be very unhappy to have their brand associated with, for example, a piece featuring serious violence. To do that, we use a third party to analyze the content of the page and categorize it across a number of fields: how violent or adult the topic, whether it contains references to illegal drugs, whether it's about hate speech and that sort of thing. And we embed those scores into the request to the Google Ad Manager so that it can match the right creative to that content. Usually that works well, but occasionally it happens that a client will complain that we're showing their ad on the wrong kind of article, in which case one of my colleagues in AdOps will want to see what's going on under the hood for that to have happened. To see how a page was categorized, we need to look at the request that's getting sent to the ad server. And you can see the problem. The data is in there somewhere, but it's really difficult to parse, especially if the screen is, the resolution is that of a potato. So being engineers, we can start breaking it down to make it a bit more legible. By the way, that's a URL with a massive query string attached to it. So we need to break down the query string. So we copy the URL, which I've truncated here because it's 15 miles long. We pass it to the URL constructor to get an instance of URL search params back. And then we parse the iterable entries into a plain object that we can more easily read, which gives us output like this, hopefully more or less legible. So we're starting to get somewhere, but annoyingly, the data we need is embedded in this cusp params parameter, which, you guessed it, is itself a URL encoded string 15 miles long. So fine, we can do the same trick as before. We create an instance of URL search params from cusp params, and then we create a plain object from that, which gives us this. And then we can focus in and we can see the categorizations, adult, alcohol, drugs, violence, etc., and how they're scored. This lets us go back to the client with a better understanding of what actually happened. Now, I don't want people to have to type this out every time they want to see what's going on. So to make this reusable, I can wrap this code up as a function, get people to store it as a dev snippet in DevTools, and anytime they want to see what data is going to the ad server, they can just go to the network tab, simply copy the request URL, and assign it to a variable called gam URL in the console, hit Command Enter, and the problem is self-evident. It doesn't scale. I don't want normal people to need to know what snippets are or where they live or how to execute one, and especially given how aggravatingly manual the process still is. What I want instead is to give my colleagues a nice, simple, intuitive UI that they can install themselves, receives automatic updates when I push improvements to it. So the obvious solution is to build a browser extension. But if you've never built one before, the next obvious question is how? So can I get a show of hands for who's ever built a browser extension? Lots of people. Okay, was it fun? No. Okay. Well, for those who haven't, here are some resources. The good news is there's an abundance of great material to help you get started. And as you'd expect, both MDN and Google Learning resources are excellent. That was Google's, this is MDN. And since we're talking about building cross-platform extensions, it's obviously extremely helpful that MDN provides you with a list of inconsistencies between the platforms. The differences are actually pretty minimal. And in fact, with Google's shift to Manifest v3, there's actually some convergence, especially around async behavior, where they've moved to using promises instead of callbacks. They also have comprehensive sets of examples on GitHub. This is MDN's, which is kind of like a grab bag of interesting applications for an extension. Look at a few of the ideas there, Beastify. And then this is Chrome's. And I'd just like to call out one big difference, which is that there's a really helpful piece of information architecture here with the highlighted directories, highlighted in red there. API samples demonstrates usage for individual APIs. So if you found out that you need to use a specific API, you can zero in on that, and they're very, very comprehensive. And then functional samples demonstrates the integration of multiple APIs, because it's not always clear how things dovetail together. So this makes it really easy to home in on what you're looking for. So in particular, I recommend watching this video by Oliver Dunk of the Chrome DevRel team. Sadly not here tonight. I know he's a Svelte superfan. For his overview of how content scripts work, because they're one of the core concepts to grasp when building extensions. And we'll talk about that in a bit. As we'll see later, the concept of isolated worlds, in which there are different windows for extension scripts, even though they're running the same page, your application code, its idea of what the window contains, and your extension's idea of what the window contains are completely different. And this is a security measure, so that, for example, a malicious extension can't overwrite your JSON.parse function. So let's move on. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot Safari. But as you'd expect, developing a Safari extension requires you to use Xcode. And to distribute it, you need to join the Apple Developer Program at a cost of £99 a year. So they won't feature in this talk. So you might, as I did, start to build out something as minimal as possible, the way that all the examples from the Mozilla and Chrome teams do. No build step, just use the platform. And while though, especially for a Svelte user, you'll start to miss the features that we come to think of as table stakes. Type safety comes via JS.doc, which is fine, but I always find myself missing regular TypeScript. Once you develop with single file components, or if you're a Tailwind fan, vanilla CSS can feel like a big step backwards. The lack of hot module replacement can feel jarring. Needing to go to the extension panel and manually reload the unpacked code every single time you make a change gets really old, really fast. So your next thought will almost certainly be to add something like Vite to your workflow, but it's not a silver bullet. We're still having to manually refresh the extension, and we're on the hook for maintaining our pipeline ourselves. So I figured there had to be a better way, and I started looking at what tooling there is, and even that felt like a pretty confusing landscape. Well, the first one I found is called Plasmo. It's got a strong focus on React, but it supports Svelte. It's very full-featured. It's an entire framework, and it even includes a software as a service publisher platform for automated deployments, but it's dauntingly large and it feels like it wants to own your extension. And that wasn't what I was looking for. So in my quest for something simpler, when I saw CRX.js, I thought, now we're talking. It's really lightweight. It's just a Vite plugin. There's no dedicated Svelte docs, but as the examples for React and Solid demonstrate, it's just a matter of adding the Svelte plugin to vite.config.js. But it looks as though the project is struggling to find maintainers and there are warnings about imminent sunsetting. So not great. Then I found Vite plugin web extension, which, as the name suggests, is a Vite plugin. It's extremely minimal, first-class type support, launches a browser with the extension already installed, supports hot modular replacement and reloading the extension on manifest changes. But visiting the GitHub repo, we see that it too is about to be deprecated. But the replacement it recommends looks awesome. So finally, we come to my strong recommendation, which is called WXT. It's got all the features previously mentioned for Vite plugin web extension. It's thoroughly documented. It's got a vibrant Discord community. It's about to go 1.0, although the API is stable right now, 0.2.3. This one is going to be the last beta. And it also provides a wide range of examples, including a Svelte store example, but no roots. On the subject of examples, it's got this very cool Explorer feature to help you identify which examples demonstrate the feature that you're interested in. So checking the APIs or the permissions options filters gives you just the examples based on your selection, which is incredibly helpful. It's also got this spicy comparison chart with Plasmo and CRX.js, which I wish I'd seen earlier. It would have saved me a lot of time. So having installed it, well, how do we install it? How do we get started with it? We can run npx wxt init my extension, like any Vite project. And we can see that it's got first-class support for Svelte. So like that, and we're pretty much done. A new browser extension project has been scaffolded for us. So here are all the assets. Nice, straightforward, familiar-looking layout. It's nice to see that it even follows the convention of putting Svelte code under the lib directory. Oops, sorry. And one thing that you might be surprised about is the absence of a manifest.json file, because that is the one file that is a requirement in all extension projects. It's a required file. But in fact, wxt.config.ts is used to generate it, meaning that you can omit some of the most boilerplatey parts. So for example, this is an absolutely minimal manifest.json file from the Chrome examples Hello World tutorial, about as simple as it gets. Every single feature and file has to be explicitly listed. And this is wxt.config.ts, which infers all that stuff from your package.json and conventionally named files. So if we quickly go back here, what I mean by conventionally named files is that we're going to get a pop-up out of this. It's going to load that, which is going to include that, which is going to mount that. And that gives you the pop-up. So you don't need to specify everything in your main.json. It's really nice. So there's one addition that I would suggest though, and that's support for the Svelte inspector, which you can add to the WXT Svelte plugins options. Here we're contextually turning it on based on whether we're in dev mode. But don't forget that we're not in SvelteKit anymore, and so you'll need to add the plugin as a peer dependency, because that can be easy to forget when you're used to working in SvelteKit because it's included for you. So now let's see what happens when we run npm run dev. Chrome opens automatically for us. The extension is already installed. And the counter actually works. Great. We've got a Svelte app. So a counter is cool, but the reason to reach for Svelte in the first place is because you want to build something a bit more ambitious. So how do we get bidirectional communication between the page and our extension? How do we take advantage of runes-based reactivity to ensure that the UI reflects changes on the page when the data updates? In this case, the extension outlined in red is keeping track not just of the network, as in our earlier example of how to inspect safety categorization, but it's live updating on the state of every slot on the page as they're scrolled into view, and the creative is lazily loaded, making the data easily human readable, unless, again, potato. It's not actually that obvious how to do that, but I'm here to give you a hint. So the extensions you build will have their own unique requirements, but I thought I'd share the basic pattern. Taking the example of a page with some client-side JavaScript and some Svelte-powered extension components that you want to integrate, which are the purple boxes, that's our application code. This is the page. These are the Svelte bits. Recall that your content script has access to the page's DOM, but not its window. Therefore, in order to communicate with the code running on the page, you'll need to inject a script into the page as a web accessible resource, meaning that it shares the same window as the page and can access application code. The injected script listens out for events it's interested in and relays them via document.dispatch event to the content script in orange. The content script can't talk directly to the pop-up or DevTools script, but it can write to storage using the browser.storage API. And finally, each Svelte-powered extension component can listen out for changes to the storage and update their state runes accordingly. So just to recap in pseudocode, in your injected script, you bind to application events and dispatch custom events for the content script to listen out to. In your content script, you create a storage instance and handle these events by pushing the event payload into it. In your Svelte component, you set the initial value of state A with the current value of storage A, and then watch storage A updating state A whenever it changes. And because Svelte is awesome, now your UI reflects the state of your application perfectly. Finally, the inspect rune gives us an insight into our extension's view of the world, but it can be really handy to confirm that it matches the data that's being stored in the browser. And this we can do in the application tab in DevTools. So this was a pretty short talk, but that's the basics of how you can use Svelte to build browser extensions. I'll be publishing a minimal repo demonstrating these techniques to GitHub very shortly. And if you've got any questions, please do reach out on Blue Sky. Thank you very much. Right.
Thank you, Ollie. Any questions for Oliver?
Go on then.
So we mentioned earlier on that Safari charge a developer fee.
Yeah.
But I noticed that WXT supports Safari. Do you still pay that fee? Do you need Xcode still?
Yes. So what you can do is you can develop your extension as normal. You can port it into Xcode. Xcode is not like a negotiable element here.
Sucks.
So you're definitely going to treat Safari as an afterthought, come what may. But then the developer fee is what happens when you want to publish it
Right.
to the world.
Right.
You don't get access to the web store unless there's no other way of installing it for Safari.
So they're basically cutting off their nose to spite their face.
As they always do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Reasonable. Thank you.
I wish it wasn't that way because you could build some really, really cool stuff for iOS. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
That's the way.
Any more questions?
Any more questions?
Oh.
Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Hey, does this Svelte dev tool work on the extensions?
I don't know whether the Svelte dev tools actually work on Svelte 5.
Okay.
I think the version I've seen published only works on version 4. Rich, any insights? So, I mean, my answer to that is the inspector has generally been adequate in combination with, and when I say the inspector, I mean like so the Svelte inspector, so that little thing that you can press Alt X and sort of click through things. Also, the inspect rune is fantastic, and as I say, you've also got access to the storage view in the DevTools.
Okay.
So between those, you're generally speaking okay.
Cool beans.
It's not ideal, but nothing is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. There was another question over there.
I mean, I haven't dabbled with extensions, but I've been hearing regarding Manifest V2 and V3 and the huge changes there.
Right.
Could you like shed some lights on how that might affect?
Okay, I was hoping this wouldn't come up. The reason I was hoping it wouldn't come up is not because I'm so particularly expert in what the differences are. This has been coming for a very, very long time. They've been warning people about the transition and that it would be mandatory. And now we're at the point at which effectively, they're deprecating existing extensions that have refused to port across to Manifest v3. So what it does is to deprecate several APIs. So for every API that you want to use, you have to opt into it. You have to actually tell, you have to expressly seek permission in the manifest JSON that you want to use, like storage or web navigation or whatever. And so they're removing those permissions, and so they simply won't work. And what that has had the effect of doing is, unfortunately for some people, not me, because I'm, like I said, I'm tech lead of the of the ads and privacy team, it's broken a lot of ad blockers. So that's why it's in the news. I understand people's motivations. It must be pretty galling to want to sort of have control of your environment and have that taken away from you by an advertising monopoly that also owns the browser. That would grind my gears, but I'm on the other side of the fence. And just to explain why I'm on the other side of the fence, I joined the FT because I think we live in a world where giving people the best analysis of what's actually happening is critically important. And my ability to help, drive that endeavor is like deeply meaningful to me. And we wouldn't be able to do what we do were it not for the supplementary income that we get from advertising. It's as simple as that. What I would actually ask you all to do is be a little bit more mindful about blocking ads on the websites that you visit. I mean, by all means, block the egregious ones. That's absolutely fine. I don't have any problem with that. But if you go to a news website, if you care about journalism, then just let them have a little money. It costs you very little. You can scroll past. Thank you. This is meaningful stuff. Rich, obviously, ex-MIT, so understands. But it helps us to keep the price of the subscriptions low. It helps us to employ journalists. You are making a sort of existential choice for news and analysis, which is even more important than news. Any more questions? If you want to chat more deeply about this, I'm always available in the pub.
Awesome. Thank you, Ollie.
Pleasure.
Okay, so for anyone watching online, we're going to have a quick 10-minute comfort break, I think you call it, because we need to get our mail set up to demo Kioko. Kioko, sorry. I knew I'd murder that pronunciation. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you very much, Ollie. And thank you again to Anthony. I'm sorry I put Anthony on the spot and said, you do it. He's never here, so I thought I'd ask him to do the presentation. And he hadn't seen the slides at all. So thank you very much, Anthony. So we'll be back in 10 minutes for our mail.
Hello. Can I just grab my bag to put these into? Just the bag. So, if
Yeah.
you're happy with that.
Yeah, give it.
Well, I'll leave the coat and I'll leave the bag as well. I'm just going to put a couple of machines in it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
I think you were underestimating your your skills.
Well, practice makes perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I've sort of heard like certain frameworks for like setting that up, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense.
So I think you're going to see more people get more excited about it because honestly, an abstraction like WHT really simplifies things.
It does look at that.
Yeah, and it supports React, it supports Solid, it supports Svelte. So your choice of framework, insert there, and it's just a really pleasant development experience as well.
Yeah, That's why I asked you about the manifest stuff because I've been hearing it like everywhere. essentially.
Sure. So
I'm like, I mean, generally I'm not really cared about like
Yeah.
that sort of stuff, but obviously it's been a heated topic.
yeah, because I mean, people get angsty about like big tech and sort of
I mean, look,
exploitation.
I can see both. It's obviously
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the ad revenue they did have like YouTube and the
Yeah, sure.
premium stuff, like the low any sort of revenue stream to be as best as it can be.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this I get. But like obviously you've done more than that. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think it's about finding a balance. So we try to not abuse our users' trust by sort of showing them too many ads.
I
Or,
mean, with FT it makes sense. Like, I'll tell you my experience. I recently set up a pipeline,
okay.
and like 20% of my sort of bandwidth
Mhm.
is in analytics. So that's egregious. Like,
Yeah, it
and
is. It really is.
yeah, like I've whitelisted a few sort of places that are okay with it, but
Yeah.
like 20%.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
It is ridiculous. I mean, so again, not to play devil's advocate, but like the problem is that what Google did was to effectively destroy the income model for journalism. And what that did was it drove everybody towards its advertising solutions. So everything became ad supported. And so it's a problem with Google's creation. They're both the source of and solution to the problem.
They're essentially a monopoly.
Yeah, and so I am in two minds as to whether I'd like to see them get broken up, because
They might. I mean, it's still ongoing. Like with
well, so OpenAI have now expressed an interest in taking Chrome off their hands, and that would be even worse.
stuff like
You don't think so?
no.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do I need to have the screen? Or is that,
Yeah, I can change.
okay. Oh, what's the side? You got the side. Thank you so much. I'm trying to clean up as well. Okay, I think we are ready for Armel's talk now. Just got to settle everyone down. Cool. People are still talking, just quietly. Brilliant. Okay, so Armel is going to talk to us about Kioko.
Very good.
It's good. Only 2 attempts. Which is AutoCAD software, which I know everyone here is very excited about
The CAD software.
with Rust.
Yeah, Rust and Svelte.
Okay, excellent. So let's give a round of applause for Armel and let him get started.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's on. Thank you. Very excited to be here. I've been waiting for this for a long time. This is Solomon, part of the team. So today is really about essentially about thanking the software community and Svelte to be around, so we can allowed to make cool stuff happen. So the idea was to present you what we built over the last few years, and hopefully by then you'll be excited about it and you want to use it, and it would be great to have your feedback when using it, so we can build something cool and make 3D happen and make it fun again. So I'm Armel. I'm no software engineer. I'm an aerodynamicist by heart, so I used to work in aerospace in Formula One. And I've used CAD for 20 years and realized it was crap for a long time. So I thought we could do something better. And so I've called in a friend, Solomon, and to answer all the tricky questions about JavaScript and this kind of stuff. So hopefully it will be mostly based around your questions and what you want to know about what the app and how we implemented stuff. So have you played with CAD before? 3D generation, 3D models. Yeah, it's difficult. A lot of the software have been created in the 1980s, 1990s, and they are very bug friendly. They also rely on mostly point and click interface, which is quite slow. And so we thought we would do something different. They do offer sometimes the option of scripting, but the scripting is an afterthought. The API is horrible, and you end up with a spaghetti of code. And so the idea around Kioko is to bring the code back into a 3D generation. So everything is code-based. It's a browser-based application where you define your 3D geometry with a set line of code. So we will show you how that works in a bit. So the stack is fairly simple. So we use Svelte for this reactivity, nice to have, play with. We combine that with Web GPU for all the 3D render, and that's using Rust. So Rust compiled into WebAssembly, WASM. And then on the back end, we use Google Cloud Platform with Rust as well. We chose Rust because it's really fast and really nice to develop with, and so you can manage errors and safety, memory safety, and this kind of stuff. And so we used that. We had basically 4 pillars to develop the app. We developed our own CAD kernel. So that's all the engine that defines the 3D geometry from CAD inputs. We used Rust for that, so didn't want to go into C++ kind of thing, so preferred Rust. Then we really wanted to have a game-like interface, so that's where Svelte came in very nicely, and came in as Svelte 3, and been there for using that for a long time now. And it's been great. The 3D renders working with Web GPU, which is again pretty nice. It's a new up-and-coming 3D rendering framework, and has been very powerful. that allows us to do more stuff on the client side for 3D renders. And then we're playing with optimization, but we can talk about that in another talk if you're interested.
So
Yeah.
is this a desktop app?
So web
A web app?
browser, yeah, web app. And so we'll show you the web app as it is today. Yeah, any more questions? Or so basically we have a, I don't know, yeah, you can see properly, but yeah, we have a set of projects. So I just start a simple project. And so what we have is basically a Visual Studio Code environment in the web browser. So we have a file where we define the geometries, and then the 3D render in the middle, then fully. So
Yeah, a bit in light mode, just for the screen.
no, so yeah, I only have dark mode. Good question.
Carry on.
Oh, there. Is that it? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's
Cool. I will work on the light mode from tomorrow.
carry on.
Yeah, sure. So basically, you can interface with mouse like you would do for normal things, but as we said, it's quite time consuming. So basically, you type your code. So here I want to create a point which coordinates x, y, z. So I can put the coordinates x, y, z in there with the parents, which is the 3D axis, and then the point will appear in the 3D space straight after that. So if we create a couple of points, and yeah, as I expect, you'll prefer, it's much better to input stuff with keyboard than a mouse. And so yeah, I need to have I'm trying to define a line. I can't see what I'm typing, but oh, you can't see either.
So you get the right sort of motion sensors if nobody needs.
So there you go. And so you start building your 3D geometry this way. So you have your lines, your points. And the nice thing about so you use a Monaco editor. So the nice thing about that, you can have all the Visual Studio things in there. Yeah. Yeah, good question. Thank you. And so we can do more complicated things. So yeah, I want to create a curve between those 2 points. Right. So I have my curve here. Then I can do a surface, which will be an extrude. So 1 and 3, and I'm going to extrude my surface, taking the reference line from that. And so I have my surface appearing here. The good thing is,
Never use point-and-click pads off. I don't realize how cool this is.
yeah, thank you. I just love every time I play with it. And so you can edit it very quickly, and then it's going to change that shape as you So that's the whole idea of the whole thing. The cool thing is because everything is language based, we can also start using LLMs like you do for your cursor and these kind of things. And so if you start building like a library of objects you always play with, you can ask the LLM to send it back. So for example, I can create a stickman with head size 2. So we're going to ask the guy to do the work for us. Hopefully that's going to work. So if we enter them, then we have our stickman. And then we have variables we can play with to change the size of the head and this kind of stuff. So I'm thinking like, yeah, this is nice to play with. There's quite cool things you can do once you build your library of objects. You can like animate these things because again, everything is all the location of the hands, the feet are variable based. So you can have a function which changes or moves the hands and this kind of stuff. Because everything is code based as well, we can use Git, we can use everything that's available for sharing. So I was going to show you another project. So I've started making cars. So that's a fancy car, and then by switching different branches. So I started with the master branch, then I changed the tires to be more like tires. And the idea is you can build your model step by step. So I made something of a car. It's really easy to design that thing, which is quite cool. And then you can make your model more and more complex. And if you're happy with one of your designs, then you can merge it back into the master. And then as you do with your software development, it's a pretty nice way to collaborate. As you know, with CAD software, it's really hard to, well, I want this shape here, but it doesn't quite fit, or I need to copy the whole thing, or I need to remodel the whole thing myself the way I want it to be done. So that's the whole idea behind it. And the final one would be we are building more and more geometries into the CAD kernel, so we can do more, more intricate designs. Again, this kind of thing is quite nice because everything is file-based, and so yeah, you can just change a variable, and it's going to update automatically as you crank up the wing for a car, for example. So that's the whole idea of the app. Thank you for Svelte for doing all the magic things on the front end. I think I've showed everything. So yeah, it's all about software development. You guys know what software development is about. So I don't have to convince you it's the best way to do things. We welcome any questions if you have. Yeah.
Sure.
How long have you got?
As long as you want.
All right. Any questions from anyone that's not me first? Right.
Hello there. Yeah, a question about you did the language model prompting thing.
Yeah.
How difficult was it to get it to know your little DSL or whatever language it was? Are you like prompting it? Are you what?
Yeah,
is it
so
just a big system prompt
it's
with the
very
whole?
easy actually.
Yeah, okay.
So we call, I don't know if I can say who we're calling, but but yeah, no, a couple of lines of defining what's a point, how a point is defined, how a line is defined, how a spline is defined, and then you can build a house very quickly, and we can build a stickman very quickly. Just very, very easy, which I was surprised about. Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got your backend in Rust. I was just wondering how much stuff is actually happening in the browser. Like stuff seems to update really, really quickly
Good
when
question.
you type stuff. What's the Rust backend doing, and how much have you managed to move into the browser?
Nice, good question. So my goal was always to have everything in the browser, and that's why we went with Wasm with GPU, because we can use the GPU on the client side. Currently, what we're doing is we get the lines from the code, the files, we send it back to the backend, and then here is building the graph, the CAD graph, which has a high computational, high compute for creating the surfacing, the nice surfaces and kind of stuff, and then that is sent back to the front end to draw the triangle for the 3D shapes. But depending on what performance we want where, we can probably pull back the CAD graph compute in the back front end. So that's a possibility because everything is Rust based. That's a good question. Yeah.
You had the .cad file. Is that like a standard or is that a custom file? So can you export these to something else if you need to
Good
print
question.
it?
So it's our CAD file. It's our own language, but from that we can convert to any other files like OBJ or STL or this kind of stuff. And we're looking at doing other more proprietary kind of files as well. So because every CAD vendor likes to have their own files and want to keep these private. So I'm trying to find the
Good follow-up question. Can I export a project here and open in SolidWorks?
So not yet, but it's in the roadmap.
Good, because I have experience with SolidWorks, and most of the clients that I worked for, like for example Michelin, the tire company.
Yeah, nice.
We are designing machines, and they required us to use SolidWorks, not because I want to, because I'm forced to.
Yes. So the idea is to have like interoperability. So give me your email. I'll call you back in June, and then we probably have something for you. Yeah. That's a plan.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully everybody is going to be file-based after this, and we won't have to have proprietary file formats.
Any more questions? Yeah, I'll go back and I'll record.
Could you briefly describe how Svelte fit in to that demonstration? I assume that what it was doing was driving the entire UI. Did you build your own UI library?
No, so it's
actually, yeah. So what you'll see with most of that, the editor kind of being third party, but the file system all driven by Svelte. We load in just it once, and anything that's CRUD functionality done through Svelte. We have a WebSocket that will send all that editor data down, and then we get the CAD graph as Ormel mentioned, and that gets populated to a nice little canvas, displays everything. So other than, I would say, the actual web GPU side, the app itself is pure Svelte, from editor to file system. And yeah, it's a combination of WebSockets to get the graph data as quickly as we can, and then API calls for like authenticating users and anything else outside of that.
I think we also both come from Angular, and so it's just having a nice, fresh thank you to Rich for all these beautiful things.
Sorry to interrupt the clap, but you mentioned you guys use WebSockets to send the data back, but a lot of the rendering also happening on the client. Like, how much is a sort of server done rendering, and could it work if you're in a tunnel, for example?
Do you want to take the initial part of that and actually say?
So it could work in a tunnel. It could work on your Eurostar if we pull the compute of the CAD graph back in the client. Currently, we split the CAD graph, which is done on a cluster, and then the 3D render, which is just computing the triangles for all the surfacing and lines on the front end. But yeah, we see where the performance is. I think if we have a fast internet, it's better to do stuff sometimes on the cloud. And then if we could have like a I'm in the tunnel button, which then pulls back stuff in the front end. That's the idea of the WebAssembly, allows us to be flexible and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I guess it was literally as Armel mentioned, it's trying to get as quick as possible. So what we could push to back end, yeah, like the CAD graph stuff, why not? Maybe in the future we'll have it all purely front end.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Very loud on the screen. I have a question. We have many questions. Actually, just one question. So basically, I got into 3D printing not long ago.
Nice.
I love OpenSCAD because it makes it something that I understand.
Yeah.
My question is, OpenSCAD, it seems the more complex you get, the more you rely on these really weird features it has. Like Hull is one, but there's another one with a mathematician's name. I can't remember what it's called. Do you remember it?
There's many.
Yeah.
Bézier,
things that do weird things.
Bézier or stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, do you have those things in this? Like, are they going to be implemented, or what's your plan with those?
Yes, they'll be implemented. We're doing nubs and this kind of stuff, and then currently we're working on like complex intersections of surfaces, which are still like a research domain for very clever mathematicians. So we're working on that, and we have member on the team who just do that for fun. So yeah, we get there.
Nice. I guess another question from that really is, this is all focused on general 3D modeling of anything. 3D printing domain. Do you have plans for the things that, say, OpenSCAD or whatever, have as external tools right now, such as like internal face detection and removal, things like that? Do they belong in this? Are they going to appear in this, or?
Good question. So there's many things we can do. I think so. Currently, the focus is on doing like 3D stuff for web apps, and then also for the F1 manufacturing stuff. The 3D printing. We export STLs, and from STLs you can use your proprietary things, which will create all the filaments inside, which will calculate how to best 3D print that. Nice. If we find a nice open source one, we make sure to integrate it.
I'll find someone smart to help you.
Yeah, but yeah, it's good fun.
Cool, thank you. All right, more claps.
Thank you very much.
Right, that's it. Yeah. You'll leave this.
No. I think we're done for the stream. Thanks everyone for watching.